Hey, it's Concrete, and time flies when you're doing Vape Train Viewers' Choice videos. So believe it or not, this is the 6th of such videos. We're going to go over some of their creamier flavors. Today I have Vape Train Cheesecake, I have Vape Train Milkshake Base, and I have Vape Train Devon Cream. Once again, I did not pay for these. Shout out to Vape Train. First for today, I have Vape Train's Cheesecake. So I'm not going to call this one bad per se. I don't find it to be particularly unpleasant, but it is definitely on the weird side. So I do like the cheesecake note here. I think a lot of cheesecake flavors, they don't have a ton of depth to them, right? Like that's one of the cool things about cheesecake is in the world of desserts, which can be sugar, 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 right? They have like a little bit of like tang and savoriness to them. And this does a pretty realistic kind of dairy funkiness to it. You know, when you describe these things, it makes them sound a lot worse than they are. But I get a not quite like butyric vomity kind of a funk to it. It's more like a like milk. Like milk is a very strange food product when you start to actually taste what's going on there. It has some of that kind of milky funk to it. The filling here isn't super rich compared to some of the other cheesecakes. It's definitely there. I do get some richer notes, but it isn't really like thick and all-encompassing. And I guess those sort of funkier, milky notes don't really lead into the super thick cheesecake mouthfeel you might be looking for. It is just a cheesecake filling though. I don't get any kind of crust note to it. And for cheesecakes, a lot of them have a fairly prominent vanilla. I don't really get that in here. I'm sure there's at least a little bit of vanilla, but it isn't like smacking me right in the face. And it is a fairly large but, it feels like there's some kind of citrus in here, right? So a lot of these Vape Train flavors, one of the more common like weird notes in some of them is like a citrusy kind of tartness in there. This doesn't feel quite like that generic tartness, but it isn't a realistic citrus either. It doesn't have any like authentic zest or anything. It's almost like somebody put like maybe some watered down orange juice. It's that kind of level of acidity. It's like there's some of that in the cheesecake filling, which is a little weird. It's not gross or completely off-putting, but it is probably something you're not looking for in a cheesecake profile. So while I don't hate vaping this flavor, I can't really think of much that I'd really want to do with it. You could use a small percentage, probably 1 or 2% of it in a fruit cheesecake base if you really wanted to kind of make the cheesecake a little bit more savory, I guess, add a little bit more of that funk back in. I think it'd work a lot like Flavours brie cheese, kind of in that respect. It has that same sort of like non-butyric, but still cheesy, funky presence to it. If you were using like a citrus with your cheesecake, like a key lime cheesecake or something like that, you might be able to get away with a couple extra percentage here. But I mean, honestly, I feel like this one's going to be a little bit niche. Next, I have Vape Train's Milkshake Base. I'm not sure what the usage for base would generally be. I would assume, hey, this is like something that you just add a fruit flavor on top of it, and there you go. Like their biscuit base, I don't feel like this is that kind of base. I feel like it's more of a modifier to turn creams and ice creams more into milkshakes than just a standalone grab-and-go milkshake. So after saying this probably isn't a good solo flavor, this is what it tastes like solo. It has a fairly heavy, funky note to it. It's a lot like that cheesecake, that actual funky note. I like it, actually, for being non-complete like butyric and rancid, but still kind of getting the point across. When you're vaping this by itself, it is fairly prominent. It does get a little bit cheesy. There's some richer buttery notes to this too, so the overall effect is a little weird by itself. Maybe don't do that. The coolest thing here though is that there's a very good like milkshake malt flavor that really kind of helps to sell like that milkshake experience. So by itself, with the buttery notes and the malt, it kind of tastes a little bit like popcorn, but where this really sort of comes into its own is when you start mixing it. I think the key with this flavor is definitely going to be viewing it as a modifier rather than an actual flavor by itself. So I've messed around with mixing this with some creams and some ice creams. With creams, like FA's Fresh Cream was the one that I picked out. It definitely adds some to the cream, you know, if you keep it low, and I'm talking under 1% probably here overall, just in general usage for this flavor, it does tend to kind of thicken up, make those creams a little bit richer, and also just give them a little bit more dimension. It's actually a pretty cool effect, and I could see using this to sort of make a cream more realistic. If you did want to do like a malted milk profile, this would be an excellent malt to use there. I'm thinking ice cream is where the magic's going to happen here. So the standard formula for a milkshake in vaping is generally you take like a vanilla ice cream flavor, you add some cream, and you hope it kind of bridges together into something that feels like a milkshake, and that doesn't usually actually happen all that well. So I did mix this with some Liquid Barn vanilla ice cream, and it didn't really make it too much richer, but Liquid Barn's vanilla ice cream is already super rich. What it did do is it kind of softened up that rich ice cream flavor. It actually kind of worked like a milkshake, actually. It kind of like blended it a little bit. It took off some of the sharper edges, and it added that really nice kind of authentic milkshake maltiness to it. So I think this is actually going to be really useful in milkshake profiles, just not necessarily something you're going to grab by itself for a milkshake. Last for today, I have Vape Train's Devon Cream. So who is Devon, and why is his cream so chocolatey? So Devon Cream, right? It's supposed to be Devonshire cream. It's like a clotted cream. It's supposed to be a fairly normal sweet cream flavor, but with a fairly high milk fat percentage. It's supposed to be like rich. I feel like this kind of does that. So the actual cream base here is really good. It's thick, it's rich, it's buttery, but it's not like that dry, too much acetylpropanol kind of peppery buttery. It's actually nice, you know, it feels rich without feeling superfluous in terms of how much butter is in there. Very nice, full, smooth mouthfeel here too. It's a very satisfying flavor to vape. It's very nice and very thick. But this is kind of a big but for me. There's chocolate in here, and that probably shouldn't be in the profile. So the actual chocolate that's here is pretty pleasant. It's a little weird to think that it might have been accidental. It's not like super like dark cocoa or anything like that. And since it has all that like buttery cream behind it, it kind of comes across as like a milk chocolate. It's like a semi-sweet chocolate kind of vibe to it, but it's good. It's actually a really good like chocolate whipped cream kind of flavor. It's just chocolate that may not actually belong there. As always, I guess, your mileage may vary with that chocolate off note, but most of the people I've talked to that have tried this do pick up that chocolate. I feel like that chocolate's a pretty integral part of this flavor. The slightly more controversial part, I also get some a little lemony here. It kind of reminds me of like the lemon notes and some of the flavor art, like custards and bakeries and stuff like that. It's not overpowering, but it does bring like a little bit of tartness to this. I found that it's probably, for me at least, it's tart enough that you kind of want another fruit in there just to take your mind off that lemon. So, I mean, overall, the thing is, this is a really pleasant concentrate to vape. It's a very good flavor. It's just a little limited in its utility because you're not going to get away from that chocolate, more or less. So I'm not quite sure what to do with this yet. Like if you have some bakery profiles that have some chocolate in there and you need like a cream component, I think this is pretty good. If you keep it lower, you can stay away from most of like that lemony accent. Shouldn't call too much attention to itself. I think like as an accent, this is probably get around 2%. Honestly though, I kind of like vaping this solo just because I'm not a good enough mixer to figure out what to do with it. But it's really nice at something like 5%. So I don't know what to make of this. It's very nice, but I don't think that chocolate's supposed to be there. Another quick Vape Train video. Next one is probably lucky number 7. It's going to probably be on some of their coffee flavors because I know y'all wanted to see a couple of those. So as always, you know the drill. There's a website, tasteofconcrete.com. You can go to it. You can check out the more detailed flavor notes. Also, you know the drill. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will catch you later.